The Senzo Meyiwa murder trial will resume in the Pretoria High Court this morning. Proceedings had to adjourn early on Friday after the state witness, Sergeant Thabo Mosia, fell ill. The state explained that Mosia had taken medication which affected him. He has been under cross-examination for 2 weeks. Mosia is a forensic field officer and was one of the first on the scene on the night of the soccer star died. SABC News senior reporter Chriselda Lewis has been covering the story since the morning. A very good morning to you, Chriselda. A lot that can be said about this case, but of course this morning we're wanting to find out if Advocate Difo files puts paid to his promise to file a complaint.
In fact, Desiree, what we're likely to hear very early when the proceedings get underway, expected at 10 o'clock this morning, is whether those papers have been filed. You'd recall that Advocate Chriselda Lewis, after the judge had indicated on Friday that he basically needed to bring an application if he wanted to apply for a trial within a trial. I do know that those papers have been drawn up. Whether they've reached the court at this particular stage, I do not have much clarity on that. But essentially, what Advocate Chriselda Lewis, who is the representative for accused 1 to 4, basically says that accused 1 and 2 had been forced into confession, and says that the confessions that were obtained after his clients had been, according to him, severely assaulted. What he is also expected to argue, if this application does go ahead, is that his clients were basically not read their rights, and when they appeared in court for the first time, you would recall, that was at the Boksburg Magistrates Court, they did not know why they were there. I recall, Desiree, during that first appearance, when the accused had gone into the dock, they had basically interrupted proceedings quite often, indicating they didn't know why they were there. They don't know why they're in the dock for allegedly killing Senzo Meyiwa. They've got nothing to do with the matter. So a critical part, what we're expecting to hear this morning, is whether this application will be brought before this court for a trial within a trial. What Advocate Chriselda Lewis is also expected to argue, if this does go ahead, in saying that, they will also argue that the accused, some of which were claimed to have been arrested in Gauteng, had in fact been in KwaZulu-Natal on the night that Senzo Meyiwa had been murdered. And basically what he is saying is that instead of this matter continuing with the cross-examination of Thabo Mosia, that should in fact be halted, and instead Kelly Khumalo and others who were occupants in the house on the day that Senzo Meyiwa was killed at the home of Kelly Khumalo's mother should instead take the stand here this morning. So that's what we're likely to hear. Also, crucially, how will this case proceed this morning? You correctly pointed out in your intro there that Thabo Mosia had fallen ill on Friday, and basically the court is saying that if he is not feeling well this morning, then we will proceed to a second witness. No clarity about whether he will be at this court here this morning. So two crucial aspects on whether this application for a trial within a trial will go ahead, and whether Mosia will be back on the stand this morning, or do we move on to a second witness.
Chriselda, just in relation to that trial within a trial application, the other issue that Advocate Difo was worried or aggrieved about last week was why the matter was brought to the Pretoria High Court and moved from the Boksburg Magistrates Court. Will his application in any way affect where the trial is being heard? Do we know?
Desiree, very early to tell now. Indeed, you're correct. That matter was brought up. And in fact, what I do know is that in this application for a trial within a trial, indeed, the documents that I have seen, which I'm not sure have reached the court yet, that is one of the aspects that he puts through, in which he questions, Advocate Chriselda Lewis questions why the court is being heard here, whether this court has jurisdiction to handle the matter, given that it had taken place in Vosloorus. He was was basically suggesting that it should have been the South Gauteng High Court that presides over this matter. But I recall the presiding judge, Thabo Mosia, basically saying it's not the first time that this has happened in a matter. But one of the other critical issues, Desiree, just before it slips my mind, is that one of the other aspects, in addition to the ones I have mentioned, is that Advocate Malisela Tifo also mentions the fact that no parade was done. No parade was done after his clients had been wrapped up to appear in court for the very first time in Boksburg relating to this matter, and also that there's also questions around these two dockets. Remember, there are two dockets as an issue that's come up quite prominently inside this court, where amongst the points that he raises in these documents, which are expected to be handed into this particular court, is why there are two dockets remaining or relating to one particular murder case. Remember, it was also Mosia who was asked by Advocate Malisela Tifo, if my memory serves me well, whether he found it strange that there were two dockets pertaining to one murder case. And he said in his 14 years experience, it was very unusual that you had a case where there'd been two separate dockets relating to one murder trial. So those are just some of the points that have been contained in that document that we're expecting Advocate Malisela Tifo to bring before this court, if indeed that application is allowed to go ahead.
Again, as usual, just the time frames. What are we expecting in terms of starting times and that?
Desiree, 10 o'clock this morning, but what I do know is that the legal representatives in this matter are scheduled to meet with the presiding judge, Thabo Mosia, a bit earlier on before the trial begins at 10 o'clock this morning. How long those discussions will take place, I guess that would be to map a way forward this morning, given quite a number of issues that need to be ventilated before court starts, including whether Mosia is fit enough to take the stand this morning, or do we proceed with a second witness, and what shape or form, if at all, this special application is allowed to go ahead for a trial within a trial. Expectation is that we'll start at 10 o'clock, but we don't know if we'll be delayed by that engagement that the presiding judge will have with the legal representatives, which was scheduled to happen before the start of the trial this morning.
Of course, you'll keep us posted. Chriselda Lewis there is a senior reporter here at the SABC.